Welcome back to this final episode in the series covering my trip to Antarctica. We've just arrived back in on the South American mainland, and we had a 4-day trip back from Antarctica, but across the Drake Passage. Was quite okay. Wind against, but not much, so we motor sailed quite a bit, except for this morning was a lot of wind, 45 knots, true wind, a bit more over deck, so we had to do some work during the night. But now it's beautiful again, it's sunny, and it's a beautiful day. Here are some final scenes from my trip, and I hope you enjoyed watching some of these films. And it's been a phenomenally interesting trip, and trip of a lifetime. Very happy I came, and also after 5 weeks it's a nice time to slowly but surely be getting home again.
So shall we start? Well, we're returning to Beagle Channel right now, approximately a month after we have started from Ushuaia. And if you think about that month right now, what is the first most vivid image which comes to mind?
I'm currently looking past you. I see mountains, and in Antarctica they will be white down to the sea level. Maybe a slimmer of rock at sea level, and then usually you would find wildlife there, which I've never seen before. That is something that I just didn't get tired of.
Oh, that's it. Well, obviously you have sailed quite a bit in the Northern Sea as well as the Med, and Drake Shake and Rounding Cape Horn is obviously that high in annual runs locally. Did you find the water any different? The seas any different?
I found it milder than I expected. You always have this image of rounding Cape Horn and all the stories you hear about it. So I think we clearly timed it very well, the crossings, and as a result, it was quite pleasant. In fact, I've sailed dinghies and yachts up to 45 foot, and this is something quite different. This sailing on Firebird is, this is an order of magnitude more involved. The forces are much bigger. You have much more power at your disposal. So that's something I found something I had to get used to. And I'm still not quite sure if I can actually break something by pressing too long on the button somewhere. Probably yes, but Firebird sailed very well. Very happy, the same as everything else I've sailed, and it's a very, very good performance. So that was good. It's a new experience. Drake Passage, navigating the channels in Antarctica is definitely a new experience, and I'm very happy to have that now part of my logbook.
Do you think in that if there is any takeaways that we can use and implement back in Europe and Slowen to implement?
Okay, so
it's usable in Europe.
Right. So what did I learn on board, which I can transfer to my own boat? Yes, I think it's more of a confirmation of what I always think anyway, but it's just more of the same, which is the calm on board. I really found that very, very good. That we didn't have extremely challenging conditions, but we had enough to challenge us to have the need to stay calm, to talk through the maneuver that's coming up, and then execute, and then get on with it. And that's always that's always a good thing to bear in mind. There's no room for stress, and I think this boat is very much stress-free, which is something I will take with me.
Oh, that's very nice.
So
can you recall, what was the view of how this expedition is going when we had the first sighting of an iceberg, and when we finally saw land entering into the Melchiors. What was your emotions? What were you feeling? Is this the beginning? Is this the middle? Is this already full in the trip? So how did passing the Drake sit in the mental timeline of what this expedition is about?
Okay, so the question being, when we arrived in Antarctica, how did I feel about that, and how did I place it in the overall timeline of the whole expedition? It was very much the end of the beginning. Yeah, and the beginning being the crossing.
Yeah.
Also here in Beagle Channel, there was plenty of new things to experience. Then the crossing was a big thing, I think for everyone. And then arriving in Antarctica, it was really the start of something so unknown to me that I was amazed by what I saw right from the start. And if I had expectations, didn't have any more expectations after that moment. I thought I'm just going to have to experience this and yes, just take it in as it comes.
Yeah, that's nice. And when we got to Melchiors, obviously one of the first things that we've done was a skill check and going for a little ice walk with the crampons and all the other tools. So is it easier to walk on a rolling boat in the Drake or with the crampons on a slippery bridge?
Right, so you mentioned Melchior, the first experience. My first experience was quite, I felt confident after the first experience. I thought I can do this, because I did tell you before I joined, look, Andre, I mean, sailing I'm okay with, my condition is okay, but mountaineering, I'm a novice. And you're okay with that, right? Okay. And so I needed to pick things up quickly, and I thought on that first trial, then, I thought, I can do it. I can do it. But in reality, I found it a lot tougher than I imagined. The mountaineering, walking with crampons, especially the different terrains, soft snow, hard snow, steep, flat, whatever. The weather was very challenging for me. And if I compare that to walking on the rolling boat, I think I'm more at home here. Yeah.
Right.
So that opened my eyes. It's a tough sport, going into the mountains.
And then we were not particularly lucky with the weather for the first time of the trip, and had to wait. And then there was an opening, and we went for our first little summit, the Jack Peak. And there you also mentioned that on the way back, you realized that there are a few more dangers which are engaged in mountaineering. So after a month, how does that sit? Is it a passing thing? Is it something that made you rethink the risks and the rocks involved?
So how do I look at mountaineering now that I've experienced
the little rock at Jack Peak?
The rock falling down? Yeah, I don't think so much about that, because that wasn't that's manageable. But what I found more, let's say, scary were those crevasses, and that's so completely unknown for me. And I asked you a question at one point, which I might not repeat now on the camera. I shall will repeat it. Should I go down on my ass? just jump. And I thought, yeah, but if I jump and then I land too early, I wasn't comfortable with that. And I still am not comfortable with that now. I just don't have the exposure to that. I must say the guide, Massimo and Samuel, felt very comfortable. I felt very comfortable knowing that I can just follow along and they can do the thinking. Just going back on this thing you said about the waiting on weather, when we were waiting a couple of days, and those were the kind of moments that I kind of were a bit worried about, because there's 10 of us on the boat, and Yeah, it really depends on the people on board whether you're okay with that, especially in Antarctica where you can't go for a swim, you can't go to a bar, you're stuck together. And that really was an upside for me on the trip, that it was no stress at all. I think we had a very good crowd on board. Yeah.
Are there any other moments like that that will be the first things that you will share with your family and your mates when you're back, when they ask you, so how was Antarctica?
Well, I was going to mention this book. It's written by a Dutchman, as you know, the first Dutchman in Antarctica, and I am the first Dutchman on board Firebird in Antarctica, so that has to be recorded. I think it's important. And it's a very good book, very well written. And he said, when he arrived, I cannot find the words to describe Antarctica. And that's coming from somebody who knows how to write books. So who am I to then put things into words? So the first thing I'll say, it's indescribable how beautiful it is. And I like the expression out of this world. It is so completely different to anything you've ever experienced if you haven't been there before. That is really out of this world. Apart from that, it is extremely beautiful, it's majestic, it's raw, and it's a place where you can find your peace. And that's what I came there. But that was one of my main reasons to come here as well, is to find some peace in my life, and I think I found it.
Not only to find it, but try to take it with us.
I thought, yes, to take it with me. I thought about that, and it's what I'm going to be focusing on in the coming months and years. Yeah.
And when we look forward to something or dream of something like a trip to Antarctica, obviously we have a mental image in mind. And now you're an experienced expedition person. So where did the reality and the dream come together? What were parts of the dream that you wished that you didn't face the reality and you could keep them as an illusion? And where the reality has surpassed what you were dreaming of?
I was open to any kind of outcome, because 5 weeks, you can't go home, there's no choice, you have to stay on board, so you never know what's going to happen with 10 people on board a boat in a small space for 5 weeks. So it could be challenging on one end of the spectrum, on the other spectrum it could be extremely good. And so my dream was to have this side of the spectrum. Now I know you a little bit, and I know who your friends are a little bit. I've met many of them almost a year ago, and I wasn't that worried about your choice of people on board. So I was thinking, I think we are going to be heading more towards the good outcome. So that was my dream, to have this outcome where I could take 5 weeks out of my life to read books, to just take in the experience, and to have fun. And all of that dream, all those parts of that dream have been fulfilled completely. And the things that I was not looking forward to, the negative parts, I haven't. Okay, we had our moments when we were all a bit tired and we were a bit cranky, and then yeah, okay, it's best just to don't have a sleep and whatever, and I think we did that very well. But 95, if not more % of the time, we had it was a dream come true.
So, and 3 rapid questions to finish up. If it was legal and you had a chance, would you take a gentle or a chin strap penguin with you?
I would take a chin strap penguin with me, because I had a special bond with them, because I also had a chin strap when I went ashore and I made my acquaintance, and they looked at me and I think we became friends.
If you were looking for a swimming couch and you were a penguin, would you prefer a leopard seal or a weddell seal?
A leopard seal. That's because they are so ungainly and they still know exactly how to go through the water like a torpedo.
And the final one. If your schedule permits, would you ever join Firebird for another expedition?
The answer is yes.